Chapter 8. Life, a Ministry. Whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Jesus. Look at it from a purely commercial standpoint, the life of Jesus Christ was a failure. His place in the world was obscure, his occupation a humble one. The work of his hands commanded only the usual recompense. From the world's point of view, his contribution was merely that of an average man. Even after his public life began, he seemingly failed just as notably as before. He made himself no reputation among men. In the field where his greatest visible success lay, the delivering of men from sorrow and trouble, he sometimes failed. He saved others, but he cannot save himself, they cried when deriding him. All the way to his death, he stood before self-satisfied men, chief priests and Pharisees, as a failure. Why? Because he and these men lived from entirely different standpoints. Men lived largely from the external. Jesus lived from within. Men reckoned success then, as the world reckons success today, largely in terms of numbers and figures in the possession of external things. After 2,000 years, we can see that the life of Jesus Christ, lived so obscurely, so unostensively, really was not the failure it seemed, that he was living a life that in the long term was the only successful one. For today, when his contemporaries have passed away and are forgotten, his life stands forth as the inspiration of all love and all goodness, the inspiration of all success. The Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister. And all God-like living is the spirit of ministry unto others. Someone has given the following definitions. Selfishness, mine, not thine. Justice, mine and thine. Love, thine, not mine. We speak of love as unselfish or selfish. There is no such thing as selfish love. Such a thing would be a paradox indeed. Love always gives. Selfishness always expects to receive. The law of love must be the law of giving, the law of ministration to others, not from sense of duty, but from spontaneity and delight. What mother ministers to her children from duty? What father makes daily provisions for his children because he is their father and the law says he must? Why, the very heart of parenthood springs out spontaneously and with joy supreme to minister to the child in every possible way, even before he or she can ask or think what he or she wants. Pure love always asks, what can I give? Never, what shall I receive? God is pure love. Parenthood is a little of God, so to speak, come forth into manifestation, the offspring of God. God, the source of all life, spiritual and physical. God, the only source of real success and joy, abides in Christ within us. God gives without thought or hope of return. So do we as soon as we become conscious of the indwelling Christ. We cease to expect or desire to be ministered unto. If we would live the life of real success, real joy, real Christ-likeness, we must keep the current toward to flow from within ourselves instead of in the opposite direction. God says, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places, and make your bones strong, and you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose water never fails. Of course, if you offer yourself, it could be not otherwise. All drawing out of the soul is a drawing out directly from the fountainhead within, from him who is all life, all light, all good, to minister him unto others. And as the water of life flows through you to minister to others, it must first refresh you with new life, light, and joy. Oh, how we have mistaken and misunderstood him, who is the way. How we have missed the joy of service by letting our ministry to others be from a sense of duty, thus striving to satisfy the conscience, in a way, by afflicting our souls and feelings that such a sacrifice was acceptable to God and in some way an aid to our growth in grace. Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the opposed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and when you see the naked to cover them? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, Here I am. No one can live to himself and not be a failure both spiritually and physically. Such living causes the stream of life and light to form backwater, and the body as well as the soul shrivels for want of new supplies from the fountainhead. It is only when you draw out your soul that your healing shall spring forth speedily, because health is nothing less than the life more abundant that the immanent Christ made manifest through the body. I am the life, said Jesus Christ. The life thus implies his recognition of only one life. God does not live unto himself. His greatest desire is to get into expression, into visibility as life, love, joy, all good. The divine Father of us all is forever trying to manifest himself in what the dear Scottish minister, George MacDonald, called a reckless extravagance of abundance. He might have manifested himself in a few flowers, but instead he fills to overflowing the very brookside, the unused and often unseen valleys with a perfect wealth of foliage and beautiful blossoms. He gives from the very joy of giving. What he has given in nature without interference is truly an extravagance of abundance. Can this desire to get into expression as the fullness of all that he is, not at all that he has, be less than it is to any nature when it comes to his highest creation, humankind? Surely not. Imagine a great reservoir fed inexhaustibly from ever-living springs within itself. Leading out from this reservoir, but never separated from it, are innumerable little streams, each ending in a fountain. A fountain is simply a receiving and distributing station. It is never self-existent or self-feeding. Each one of the fountains is an individual center for distributing the water it receives. It is constantly renewed from the one great source without any effort on its own part. Its sole business is to distribute what it receives. At its external extremity, each little fountain is separate and distinct from all others, but at its inner extremity, at the center, it is one with them all. This is exactly God's revelation to his children. He is the reservoir. We are the receiving and distributing stations. He is the vine. We are the branches. He is the one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. We too are his offspring. Call no one your father on earth, for you have one Father, the one in heaven. There is no obstruction between this great reservoir and any individual fountain except what we put there. Each one is, as Emerson said, the inlet, and may become the outlet of all there is in God. But each one must keep his own fountain free for the great stream to flow through. He must not let it get dammed up by selfishness. There must be a constant outflow in order to keep water pure, cold, and invigorating. No one need plead with the water in a spring to flow. It is bound by its very nature and desire to make room for the pressure of new waters, which are ever crowding up from its living center to flow wherever they can find a free outlet. If one outlet becomes obstructed, the water simply seeks more room through another, for flow it must by the law of its being. New life, new wisdom, new love and joy and power, more than we can ask or think, are awaiting every instant to flood our being from the great reservoir God. What no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the human heart conceived, what God has prepared for those who love him. Either consciously or unconsciously, we close up the outlet when we refuse to give out to others what we receive. What do you have that you did not receive? By mentally living unto ourselves alone, by sharply, shrewdly looking out for number one first, last always, by feeling that it isn't our duty to minister unto others without return, then in the name of worldly wisdom, we repress the God-giving, loving impulse to distribute freely, and without thought or hope of return what we receive. If we turn the current in the opposite direction, by seeking what we can get from the world instead of what we can give to it, then we so choke up the living stream of good that God himself is powerless to pour into us the very things for which we may be praying. Christ is the light of the world. Christ is within us. This light is ever fed from the great fountain of all light, the Father in him. I in them, and you in me. God made each one of us to be a radiating center, constantly shining outward toward others in a spirit of ministry and giving. If you draw out your soul to satisfy the afflicted, then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your gloom be like the noonday. But if you put a covering over your light by harboring the thought of not letting your neighbor receive from you anything for which he makes no return, you will simply find yourself walking in the darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? As Christian Gellert said, whoever in the darkness lighteth another with his lamp, Christ lighteth himself also, And the light is not of ourselves, it is of him who appointeth the sun in their course. The Spirit of Christ is ever the Spirit of ministration. We are not called upon to give that which we have not, but only that which we have. When Peter and John were going into the temple and saw a certain lame man lying at the gate of the temple, where he daily asked alms, Peter said to him, Look at us. Acts said, he fixed his attention on them, expecting to receive something, some money from them. But Peter said, I have no silver or gold, but what I have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, stand up and walk. Who shall say that Peter did not give more than any amount of money or alms? Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Jesus knew the immutable law when he said this. He knew that every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. He also knew that all giving tends to larger receiving. Some give freely, yet grow all the richer. Others withhold what is due, and only suffer want. Proverbs 11:24. Freely ye have received, freely give. Matthew 10:8. End of chapter. End of book. This audio presentation of God, a Present Help by Emile Cady has been brought to you by audioenlightenment.com. Copyright 2013. All rights reserved.